Tell me a little bit about yourself, your time here in Elk Grove.
Yeah. Well, I oftentimes tell people that I grew up in the Central Valley. Went to Clovis High, grew up in the city of Clovis. And when I graduated, I wanted to get out of that farming life because my parents used to do cherry tomatoes and sugar peas. Oh, I hated it. And as a result of me realizing how much I do not like farming, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to be going to to college. And it's when I made the transition to UC Davis, came to UC Davis, and got married and kind of fell in love with the Sacramento region. Wanted to find a place to settle. At that point, my wife became a teacher and discovered Elk Grove. We were on our way home to Fresno, and I turned off of Elk Grove Boulevard to get some gas, and eventually we saw Old Town Elk Grove, and we fell in love. And we made a commitment to move into this community, since moving into the community, I had a chance to vote for incorporation to turn this community into a city. And gosh, that was like 22 years ago.
You're America's first elected Hmong mayor.
You know, I've never really thought of that. You know, when I ran for mayor, I just wanted an opportunity to serve. You know, I was completely content with being a school board member because education is what I know. Being a school counselor, counseling students on a daily basis is what I am comfortable with. And school board was completely fine, but the opportunity arose for me to run for council and eventually for mayor. And when I ran for mayor, I really was thinking, okay, so how can I contribute as a current former school board member and, if elected, former council member. And I realized that as a mayor, I could do everything that I've done before and more. And on the election night in 2016, I walked into the campaign office and the media was there, and they were saying, did you realize that you happen to be the first mayor of Hmong descent in the United States? And I'm like, you know, I really didn't really think about that until I ran, but yeah, coincidentally, I guess I am. I think what's important for me is not so much being the first, but looking forward to those who come after me, because I think that that's key. Sometimes being the first, there's a lot of magnifying glasses on me, and you know, monitoring how I do in terms of whether I do a good job or a bad job as mayor. But I think more importantly, I always see my role as paving the way for those who come after me.
The most important issues in your mind facing folks of Elk Grove and what you would do to tackle them?
Well, the most important issue right now is the pandemic and how we respond to it. You know, since the pandemic came into the city of Elk Grove, we as a city has done a number of things. You know, myself as the mayor, the one thing that I pride myself is getting awareness and getting people to understand that wearing a facial covering is okay, because as a community, we need to flatten the curve. You know, basic common sense things like washing your hand, covering your cough, maintaining social distancing. And on a regular basis, as the mayor of the city of Elk Grove, I've continued to broadcast that in online videos, and we have web pages that are set aside specifically to provide information and to provide what we are coordinating as a response. We've done a number of things as well, like investing in partnership with Uplift to provide low interest loans to businesses, to work with the CARES money that we received to provide grants to businesses and also to residents to make sure that utilities are monitored and provide mini grants to assist them along those lines. We've helped nonprofits, and we've also initiated at the beginning a rental moratorium for business and residential. Response, pandemic response, economic recovery. How do we move from here to some form of normalcy? And I'm not quite sure what normalcy would mean. I think that this may be a way of life for all of us in terms of covering our face and making sure that we maintain social distancing and washing our hands on a regular basis. But getting our businesses to a point in which they can sustain themselves again. That's my biggest concern as the mayor. Number two is continuing to monitor traffic safety. You know, I have always been a big proponent of a rapid bus transit system. That's something that I would love to see in Elk Grove, that I'll be working hard to see what I can do to bring that to Elk Grove. The other thing is light rail. I think this whole region, we dream of being able to get on light rail and to be able to get to the airport. And the talk and the land has been set, the corridor that's been set aside for light rail is in existence. So this is something that, you know, I just didn't dream of, but you know, the council as a whole, we've been talking about this from the get-go. We want to eventually be included in the regional transit with this region and work with them to see how we can actually leverage limited resources and you know, move forward. And the third thing is public safety. Elk Grove is a very, it would be classified as a big city. It's a big city, certainly not a metropolitan area or metropolitan city, but it is 176,000, and I think that that's sufficient enough to really acknowledge and look at the crime rates and determine whether Elk Grove is a safe city. And I'm here to share with the viewers and also you that the city of Elk Grove is in a great position. We are down 40% in violent crime. We are down 15% in property crime, and this is over a 5-year span since I've been mayor. And I think that's pretty indicative of the brave men and women that continue to serve to keep our city safe. But it also extends from the fact that we have put a lot of programs in place that will troubleshoot and address sort of problem areas in the city of Elk Grove. These are 3 priorities that I continue to be committed towards. You know, I think that in order for us as a city to move forward, we really have to be addressing the economic recovery. You know, how do we get our businesses back to opening? The efforts that we have done include allowing for open air dining outside. You know, that helps a little bit. You know, with us moving from the different tiers, hopefully to make it into a tier in which the restaurants can open up, that's where we will be in a better position. So,
there are 2 big hospital projects ongoing in Elk Grove: Dignity Health and California North State hospital projects. Talk to me about the importance of those. And I know, especially with the North State project, there's been a bit of controversy surrounding that due to displacement of some local businesses and the environmental impact.
Sure.
Do you support those projects? Yeah. And if so, how do you get around some of the controversies surrounding those?
I think the most important part is, as the mayor of the city of Elk Grove of this size, I have never made it a secret that I support the concept of a hospital. And so supporting a concept of a hospital, it doesn't matter whether it's Dignity or CNU, I support healthcare in Elk Grove. Part of my role as the mayor is to make sure that my residents are provided for in the case of an emergency. And this is personal for me. This is personal because my father died here in the city of Elk Grove of a heart attack. And I oftentimes go back and review things that could have happened, things that I could have done. Maybe I would have recognized the signs, or, you know, but the end resolution is that he couldn't get to an ER fast enough. We couldn't get first responders fast enough to him. And so I see this hospital in Elk Grove, whether it be Dignity Health or CNU, as something that, as the mayor of the city of Elk Grove, you know, I support the concept of a hospital. Now, specifically, I think that your question probably stems around the CNU project. The CNU project is in the EIR process, which is accepting comments from the community. And, you know, that being the case, I think that that's important because we as a council, or even myself as a mayor, I don't dictate where a project is going to happen. The developer or the applicant submits the application with the property in which they purchase, and they submit it to the city. In this particular case, they're submitting the particular property with that strip mall right next to the university. And so as the mayor and as a city council, we have to evaluate it based on that. We have to evaluate the comments that comes in and make a decision based on that. It would be wonderful if we can tell private developers that, hey, we don't like that project. We need you to go and buy a property across the city and build it there. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I think we can make the suggestion, but the initiative needs to happen with the applicant to make that leap to liquidate it and then move somewhere else, and then come back to us with a proposed project that's inclusive of the new property. So I think that's a really important, valid point that I want the viewers to realize and acknowledge. The other part of it is that these are just proposals. They come before us, and then we as a council take public comment, and then we evaluate based on that. You know, perhaps maybe the hospital proposal is too tall. Perhaps a helicopter pad is too intrusive. Perhaps maybe having a hospital next to a bird refuge is not appropriate. Perhaps having it next to residential area is a serious issue as well. These are all valid concerns that I think it is important for the community to come and provide their input and to be at the table when we make this decision. It has never been exclusive. It has always been an inclusive attempt, and part of it is the hospital or the developer of the hospitals, their job is to include the community. Many folks have asked me, why didn't I do a town hall? Well, because it's not my decision yet. Where it is right now is it's the decision of the applicant. Once they push it forward, and then we evaluate, and then that's when we as a city then can continue to reach out. And so I'm very cautious as to how we approach this. I want to make sure that the residents all feel that they have a say in this, because it's not just a hospital for the university or just a hospital for Dignity current patients. It's for the whole community. Because when you dial 911, they're not going to make a determination as to which HMO you belong to. They're taking you to the ER that's closest. And so that being the case, I understand the controversies behind it. I understand the concerns of the residents. But as I continue to talk to voters, I always encourage everyone to come and have the conversation. There's going to be an opportunity for us to hear this in council. And so don't be shy. Come and voice your concerns, voice your opinion. The end game or the end product is something that we all should be content with, if it even happens. I can assure you at this rate, we know that the Dignity Health is probably coming, but the CNU is certainly up in the air. We don't know yet. And me supporting the concept of a hospital, I have made that clear. Oftentimes people assume that having that position means I support all hospital. Not necessarily. I want to consider all applicants on their merits.
Your opponent, Bobbie Singh-Allen, has criticized you on this matter as well as others, specifically to this one, saying having some critical thoughts on the campaign contributions as well as transparency on the matter specific to CNU and that hospital, just saying that the community process in terms of hearing opinions and thoughts has not been transparent, and says that result is of you, the mayor. What's your response to those allegations from the campaign contributions and transparency?
Sure. My first response is just because Bobbie Singh-Allen receives a cannabis contribution, I don't make the assumption that she's going to be supporting cannabis. I think that political contribution has been ruled by the Supreme Court that this is part of free speech. People will voice their support for or against, depending on the position of the candidate. I've never made it a secret that I support healthcare in the city of Elk Grove. That being the case, I can tell you that I've received $0 from the university. Now, there may be professors that are connected to university who have made contribution. So the value in which you have suggested, or my opponent has suggested, I haven't sat down and verified that to be the case. But nonetheless, this is part of free speech. And if that argument is valid, then I can certainly make the argument towards her campaign as well. Every person who makes a contribution to her campaign, that means she is beholden to them. And if that's the case, then all the developers, all the cannabis, all the all the marijuana contributors, she would then be beholden to them. But I think that's detracting from the real issue. The real issue is whether we are bringing the people to the table and having that conversation. We aren't even there yet. In regards to transparency, we will get there. We will engage everyone. And we have been doing our part from the city's perspective, one step at a time. But we're in full engagement, it hasn't happened yet. And so I think that her statement is certainly premature, but I think that that's what happens when you're not in the seat and you're in the spectator area. You can certainly criticize and make all sorts of conjectures and opinions, but until you sit in the seat of a council member or the mayor, you think you know, but you have no idea. And I think that that's a fair statement. Certainly from the city's perspective, I think that my efforts to run for political office is to make sure that people are at the table. Now, just because I make a decision on something and somebody doesn't agree with me, doesn't mean that there wasn't any transparency or there wasn't any engagement. I think sometimes we have to respect people for disagreeing. And that's what promotes a healthy democracy and healthy exchange. As a proponent of one issue or another, I think it's incumbent upon those individuals to share their views with the council individually and as a whole and express their concern. And that's, in essence, what democracy is. But in terms of transparency, we have a dedicated information on the website. We have asked the applicants to provide information on their website as well. From my evaluation as to where we're at, yes, we will do more, but where we're at right now has been consistent with the efforts of transparency.
And on the lines of some other allegations against you, which has taken an unfortunate hold of this electoral process and has made Elk Grove perhaps one of the most contentious local elections in our region, are the allegations against some of your confidants and even yourself by Bobbie Singh-Allen in terms of your treatment of women. Where does this stand in terms of your, as you run, when with these allegations coming forward by your opponent, quite a bit of mudslinging? What do you tell to the folks who may be making a decision to vote for you or someone else about this?
Well, I say this, I run on my record. Looked for the past 4 years in which I've been mayor, has your life been better or has been worse? What have I done as the mayor to contribute to supporting your way of life? The other thing, addressing directly with the accusations of harassment and bullying, I asked the police department to look into it. The police chief reported back to the entire city council on July the 22nd that there's no evidence that supports that any of my supporter or anyone who's connected to me is involved in this, or even the possibility that I'm involved in this. So to me, quite frankly, that's pretty clear as water. And that being the case, I think that I was confident in moving from that to talking about the real issues in the city of Elk Grove. The honest truth is, when I first heard of this, I was really distraught, because I'm a counselor by day. My professional livelihood is I counsel students who have gone through traumatic experiences, students that have been involved in domestic violence, students that are victims, students that are from families that have not been supportive of them. And so for me, as a counselor, when I heard that, I was really distraught and was really concerned. But it became crystal clear when my opponent declared her candidacy for mayor. And the truth of it is that this is all political. To make the indication, to even allude to the fact that I'm a misogynist person is inaccurate. I work with students. Part of my responsibility is to make sure that students that I'm counseling feel supportive. And that has been something that I've done longer than I've been mayor. I chose this career because I want to help people. The most important question is for my opponent, who served with me on the school board since in 2012. We served for 2 years together. We were completely fine. Not only that, but when I ran for council, she supported me. And so it is just perplexing to me that all of a sudden, over a number of years, these issues would come up, which, if it was true, it should have came up early on. But nonetheless, I'm not ruling the possibility that maybe there's somebody who's doing it and thinking that, oh, I'm trying to help the mayor. Well, I've made my position completely clear. I've told people, hey, look, if you're doing this and you're thinking that it's helping me, please stop. It harms everyone. And so let's let the campaign talk about the issues. Let's let the campaign talk about how we're going to bring good things to Elk Grove. But mudslinging and name calling is something that certainly I don't support. And my campaign has stuck to the issues.
And my final question, are you the best candidate for mayor of Elk Grove?
Well, at the end of the day, the people will decide. But I can assure you and the viewers that I am the most experienced. I served 2 terms, and my record speaks for itself. I think I've had the privilege of seeing the crime rate drop. I've seen, without necessarily increasing our law enforcement in the city of Elk Grove, a city as large as Elk Grove is comparable to other cities that are half the size with comparably low crime rates. We've seen the Veterans Hall, the Aquatic Center, the Community Center, the Veterans Hall and the Senior Center as well, and the Animal Shelter. These are all amenities that it makes me so proud that as the mayor, I've been able to see the groundbreaking to the actual event to which we're cutting the ribbon. We have a lot of great things in the city of Elk Grove, and we're doing our part to make sure that we're prudent, financial stewards of the public's money, and maintaining a steady rainy day fund of 30+%, $24 million, and at the same time making sure that wonderful things come to the city of Elk Grove. On November 3rd, it will be entirely up to the voters of Elk Grove to make that decision. And I have always said, this is not my seat, it's the people's seat. And that being the case, I will always support what the people decide.